Godzilla faced King Kong in the Showa era, which ended up being their only fight in the entire series. What if that wasn't the only time they met in the Showa era? What if Godzilla and King Kong teamed up to fight King Ghidorah? I think this would be an extremely interesting fight because King Ghidorah is one of Godzilla's most powerful foes. Before we go any further, up next is a list of each character's abilities. Like I said earlier, this would be an extremely interesting situation. King Ghidorah would arrive on Earth and wreak havoc upon arrival. Starting in Japan, he would begin his rampage, which would certainly gain the attention of Godzilla. He would travel to Japan to fight King Ghidorah, but I think he would lose on his own. I think he would put up a pretty good fight, but would have to retreat. Godzilla would be beaten and injured, but he would recuperate on the ocean floor or Monster Island. With King Ghidorah undefeated and continuing his path of destruction, I think the Japanese government would decide to go to Faroe Island and ask for help from King Kong. They would bring him back to Japan to battle King Ghidorah, but I don't think he could win alone. I think he would also get defeated and the Japanese government would have to help King Kong heal. Since King Ghidorah would still pose an immense threat, destroying city after city, eventually it would be decided to have Godzilla and King Kong fight together against King Ghidorah. Obviously, since the two monsters had previously fought each other, I don't think it would be easy to get them to just team up. The government would have to set up a situation where all three monsters are in the same area at the same time. They would have to wait for King Ghidorah to appear again and then try and lead Godzilla and King Kong to him. I think that eventually King Ghidorah would reappear, wreaking havoc upon another city. The government would use their previous tactic and knock King Kong out and drop him near King Ghidorah, whereas the military would be monitoring Godzilla's position and lead him to shore. Eventually, all three monsters would converge on each other, King Ghidorah destroying the city while King Kong is airdropped near his location. Godzilla would come ashore and start marching towards King Ghidorah. The gravity beams that King Ghidorah fires would hit a sleeping Kong and wake him up. They would also hit Godzilla, briefly hurting him. King Kong would wake up and charge the three-headed monster, and the fight would ensue. In that moment, Godzilla and King Kong would agree to work together to defeat King Ghidorah. They would charge Ghidorah, but he would use his hurricane winds and gravity beams to keep the two at bay. Godzilla would fire his atomic breath repeatedly at the three-headed monster. King Kong would try and get behind and hold King Ghidorah while Godzilla beat him badly. King Ghidorah would push Kong off and push Godzilla away. King Ghidorah would gain the upper hand and repeatedly spam Godzilla and King Kong with his gravity beams until the two monsters got close to tapping out. In the nick of time, the Japanese government would hit King Kong with electricity to help him tap into his special ability. King Kong would be revived and ready to fight. Seeing this, Godzilla would be ready to get back into the fight, and Godzilla would tail whip King Ghidorah and hit him with his atomic breath. He would get behind Ghidorah and Kong would hit him with his electrical currents. This would deal some real damage to King Ghidorah. The two monsters would have King Ghidorah on the brink of defeat, but King Ghidorah would fly up with both monsters attached to him and drop them down to the ground. He would then immediately fly back to space, wounded and defeated for now. King Kong and Godzilla would be hurt from the fall, but eventually would get up and look at each other. I think Godzilla would want to get King Kong back for their previous fight, but the two would set aside their differences and go off on their separate ways. They would be too tired to continue on fighting, and now have a newfound respect for each other. I think this would have been a very interesting battle. The destruction would have been off the charts. I think that Godzilla and King Kong would have been able to fend off King Ghidorah, but not kill him. This would have left the opportunity for King Ghidorah to return and resume his plot to destroy Earth. This team-up would have been epic to see on the big screen. Stay tuned for the next What If.